Is Nat Geo's Genius Aretha giving us...
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Let's talk about it in today's video. Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm doing a TV series review on National Geographic's third season of their anthology limited series entitled Genius Aretha. So yeah, I'm talking about the entire series in today's video. This isn't a movie review. This isn't a Fan Reaction Friday video where I'm reacting to a TV show. It's sort of a combination of both. And hopefully I can start doing more of these videos moving forward so I can start talking about more TV shows other than just like reacting to them, because those videos are very time consuming to make. But in any case, we're talking about Genius Aretha in today's video. Genius Aretha stars Cynthia Erivo as Aretha Franklin and Courtney B. Vance as Reverend C.L. Franklin, her father. The series also stars David Cross, T.I., Malcolm Barrett, Luke James, Rebecca Naomi Jones, Patrice Covington, and Cheyenne Jordan as young Aretha Franklin. The showrunner for Genius Aretha is Suzanne Lori Parks, who some of you guys may already be familiar with her work because she actually was involved with writing the screenplay for the United States versus Billie Holiday. So, for those of you guys who maybe aren't really familiar with the show Genius, Genius is basically an anthology series that airs on National Geographic, and each season focuses on a particular genius. So season 1 focused on Albert Einstein, season 2 focused on Picasso, and this season, their third season, they're focusing on Aretha Franklin. And it's a pretty monumental season for the show because not only is this their first woman that they are focusing an entire season on, but it's also their first person of color. So look at that, Aretha Franklin, even in death, breaking boundaries. So Genius Aretha tells the story of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, primarily focusing on her Atlantic years from 1967 to the late 1970s, with frequent flashbacks to the singer's childhood years spent on the road and in the church. You see her struggles as an African-American artist, particularly in the context of the civil rights movement, and explore the complicated relationship dynamics she had with her siblings, lovers, and her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin. So I'm gonna structure this video like I structure my movie reviews on this channel. So I'm gonna talk about the pros, the cons, and I'm also, in this case, going to be talking about some of the controversies surrounding the show. And then at the very end, I'm gonna give my overall rating and review. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you so much to my friends over at National Geographic for sending me an advanced screener of this show. They sent me episodes 1 through 7. So that's every single episode of the season minus the finale. So that's the perspective that I'm reviewing this show from. Alright, so let's talk about some of the pros. So my first pro to this series is the singing. The singing on the show is genuinely the high point of the series, and for me, I personally think that Cynthia Erivo does a phenomenal job. Now, before the Aretha Franklin fans come for me, there's only one Aretha Franklin. Period. Stop. Don't even question it. There's only one. So this isn't a question up for debate of, is she better than Aretha? Obviously not. There is only one. But in my personal opinion, objectively, I believe Cynthia Erivo sings in this show. My favorite singing moment comes in episode 3, so look out for it today. But it's when she sings Call Me. She's in the recording studio at the piano, and it's just a really, really lovely moment. What's so great about it is they really just let the moment ride, and it feels and sounds so good. I genuinely feel like, if anything, because the songs are performed so well and they still sound so good, that's just a testament to the strength and timelessness of Aretha Franklin's musical catalog. My second pro of this show is that they did a really great job with establishing the greats that surrounded Aretha in helping her become a genius. So of course Aretha Franklin was extremely talented, and not only was she extremely talented, she worked very hard to hone that gift. But because Aretha Franklin's dad, Reverend C.L. Franklin, was a really well-known pastor, he therefore was very well connected with a lot of well-known, talented people. And so because of that, Aretha Franklin was exposed to greatness at a very young age. In the flashbacks to her childhood years, you see people like Dinah Washington and Clara Ward, And also throughout the series, you see other notable people like Lena Horne and Martin Luther King Jr. So you really get a sense of how all of these people in their own way helped shape and influence the artist as well as the person that Aretha Franklin would become. And to me, this is extremely important to show, especially for this show in particular, Genius, because the entire conceit of this series is to show how and why the person ultimately became a genius. My third pro is that if you really don't know much about Aretha Franklin's personal life, you will learn a lot after watching this show. Now, that is a strong emphasis on the first part of that statement, and I personally fall into that side of the camp, even though I grew up knowing who Aretha Franklin was, and I'm definitely familiar with the popular songs, and I love the popular songs. I don't really know too much about Aretha Franklin's personal life, so for me, watching this show was like Aretha Franklin 101. I definitely learned a lot about her emotional traumas that she faced in her life, from getting pregnant at a young age, the death of her mother, and of course, some of her relationships. But aside from learning about Aretha Franklin, you also learn a lot about her dad. Aretha Franklin's dad played a huge part in her life, and honestly, he does not come out looking that great in this show. I believe in episode 1 or episode 2, a character described Aretha's father as a reverend who enjoys Sunday morning but also enjoys Saturday night. So I honestly won't be surprised if someone ends up writing a think piece about him and by the end of this week he gets canceled. Like, that's how bad he looks in the show. So yeah, to put it shortly, the tea is hot. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the cons. So my first con to this TV series is the lack of popular, well-known Aretha songs. So I read somewhere that because this show didn't necessarily get the blessing of Aretha's family, they did not have access to the more popular, well-known songs, which as an aside, I think is kind of weird because Clive Davis, who was the head of Arista Records back in the day, and Aretha, after being at Atlantic, she eventually worked with Clive Davis at Arista. He's one of the executive producers of this show, so I don't know what happened there, but anywho, you do not hear the popular, well-known Aretha Franklin songs, so don't go into this show expecting to hear songs like Respect, or You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, or even like Ain't No Way. You're not gonna get those songs. Then again, I still haven't seen the last episode, so there is a good chance that they might include those songs in the finale, but honestly, I highly doubt it. So if you're expecting to hear those popular songs, you might be disappointed. And my second con to this show, and it's really related to this first con, is the misleading episode titles. So each episode is specifically named after a particular Aretha Franklin song. So like the first episode is called Respect. So, you know, naturally you would think, oh, I can't wait to hear Respect in the episode titled Respect, but guess what? You don't hear that song. So for me, I just feel like that's very misleading, naming an episode title after an Aretha Franklin song if you're not going to play that said Aretha Franklin song, and it's just really annoying. So yeah, that's my second con. My third con to this show is the disconnect between the flashbacks and present day timeline. So structurally, most of the episodes have two timelines going on. You have present day Aretha Franklin, and then you have the past timeline, which is all of Aretha Franklin's childhood. And while it's cool that we do get to see her childhood, sometimes the flashbacks feel very unnecessary and distracting. And I could definitely tell what the writers were going for in terms of showing how her past connected to the present. And to me, the flashbacks were most effective when there was a thematic connection between these two separate timelines. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case in some of these episodes. And while watching this show, it was to the point where the flashbacks were sort of stopping the momentum of the overall narrative. So for me, I wish they either cut down on the amount of times they did the flashbacks, or if anything, they just made the thematic connection more apparent so it would make sense as to why we keep cutting to the past when we do. And my fourth con to this show is that I wish we saw more of Aretha Franklin's personality. Now, for any biopic, you're walking this fine line between celebrating the person as well as humanizing the person. And so you don't want to write them as too perfect, but at the same time, you don't want to completely trash their character. And for me, that's just one reason why I personally enjoy the biopic genre, because I think it's interesting to see the politics and negotiation between those two different interests. So yeah, it's interesting to analyze. But in the case of Genius Aretha, at times I felt like because of this, Aretha as a character in the context of this TV show felt like a very well-tamed version of Aretha Franklin. Based on interviews that I've watched and articles that I've read, Aretha Franklin seemed to have a very distinct personality. You know, she was very blunt, she just tells it like she sees it, and she can definitely be shady.
And let's sort of change genres a little bit. Nicki Minaj?
Nicki Minaj. No, I'm gonna pass on that one.
But I didn't really get any of that in this show. Perhaps the writers were scared of pissing off her family even more, but for me, the personality of Aretha didn't really shine through in the way that they wrote her. She just kind of felt a bit flat as a character, and we all know in real life that couldn't be further from the truth because Aretha was a dynamic person even in her older age. Alright, now I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the controversies surrounding the show, and there are a couple. So the first controversy being that the family of Aretha Franklin does not support this series. In fact, they're even boycotting the show, and they are asking everyone to not support the show at all. Two of Aretha Franklin's granddaughters, Victory and Grace Franklin, are not only boycotting in the streets, but are also using social media to express their concerns because the family were not involved in the making of this series. I'm going to play a little clip from Grace Franklin's TikTok to show you what I mean. And, you know, as an aside, the fact that I just said that statement kind of makes me want to light myself on fire, but in any case, here's the clip.
Hi, I'm Grace Franklin. My grandmother is Aretha Franklin. I'm the one pictured in that video, along with my siblings, my parents, and some of my friends. As most people know, there are two biopics of my grandma currently being made, the Respect movie with Jennifer Hudson and the Genius series with Cynthia Erivo. As the immediate family, we feel that it's important to be involved with any biopic of my grandma's life, as it's hard to get any accurate depiction of anyone's life without speaking to the ones closest to them. During the process of writing, directing, and filming this movie, we've reached out to Genius as a family on multiple occasions where we've been disrespected and told that we will not be worked with. As the immediate family, emphasis on immediate, we do not support this film, and we ask that you also do not support this film, as we feel extremely disrespected, and we feel that there will be many inaccuracies about my grandmother's life. Thank you.
And in a recent interview with Rolling Stone magazine, Cecil Franklin, Aretha Franklin's son, and the father of Grace Franklin said, "What we've found out in the past is that usually when people don't want to work with you, that is a prelude to some type of unprofessional behavior or a prelude to some type of untruth or slander. So we're not quite sure where we're going to see in this series. That's usually the case when people say that they don't want to work with you." So yes, in short, the family is not here for this limited series. And again, as someone who has seen episodes 1 through 7, I kind of understand why. And honestly, I really don't think they should be worried about the way Aretha Franklin is portrayed in the show. If anything, the person that they should be worried about is how her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, is portrayed. Because again, I'm just calling it right now, will not be surprised if this man gets canceled in death. And of course, you know, the second controversy is the Cynthia Erivo of it all. So Cynthia Erivo, I feel like in recent years has become fairly controversial. A lot of the controversy first started off when she was cast as Harriet Tubman. Now, Cynthia Erivo is of British and Nigerian descent, so she is a non-African American actor, and so her being cast in the Harriet Tubman movie was yet another example of a non-African American actor portraying an iconic African-American person. But I think what complicates Cynthia Erivo specifically is the fact that there were some old tweets from a couple of years ago that resurfaced where she sort of mocked Black Americans, calling the way that they speak ghetto. So because of all of this, Cynthia Erivo's involvement in this project has really turned off a lot of people from wanting to support the show at all. So my overall rating for Genius Aretha is going to be a B+. Genius Aretha ultimately explores how and why Aretha Franklin is revered as a genius. Yet, while the musical performances speak to the longevity of Aretha's musical catalog, its somewhat unfocused way of telling the life story that took place in between these songs left me feeling a bit underwhelmed at times. What didn't leave me underwhelmed were the eye-opening revelations about some of the trauma Aretha went through in her life, sometimes because of her father's questionable life choices. With that being said, if you can get past the Cynthia Erivo of it all and do not mind that this show doesn't have the family's blessing, I'd still recommend watching the show, if only to give a little respect to the Queen of Soul while we're all still stuck at home. Plus, I will say this will be a fun comparison to Jennifer Hudson's Aretha Franklin biopic that's coming out later this year. And that about wraps it up in today's review. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and please turn on the notification button down below so you know when a new video from me comes out. It really helps us, especially in terms of the YouTube algorithm, if you are super engaged with this video. So like honestly, giving this video a thumbs up or even leaving like a comment down below like helps people find this video. So please do one, if not both of those things. Let me know if you are watching Aretha and what are your thoughts so far. And I'd love to know too, what is your favorite Aretha Franklin song? Gosh, man, that's really hard. Again, I'm someone who doesn't I don't know all of Aretha Franklin's songs, but if I were put on the spot right now, I would say Ain't No Way is an easy favorite of mine, as well as One Step and Daydreaming. Really love those songs. And also Holy Holy from the Amazing Grace film, which if you are new to my channel, I'll put a link up here. I did a movie review on that movie when it first came out like a couple years ago. So I really enjoyed it. And I think it was the first movie that ever got an A on this channel. So yeah, check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. As always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all my humble opinion. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!